Good day everyone. So for today's video, we're going to discuss rational inequalities. So paano po ba natin sinosolve yung rational inequalities? So unlike rational equation, kung si rational equation ay merong definite na solution, may it be isa or dalawa lang or tatlo. Si rational inequalities, we are not just dealing with one or two solutions, but we are dealing with infinitely many solutions. That is why we have to follow these steps on how are we going to solve rational inequalities. First is for us to rewrite the inequality as a single fraction on one side of the inequality symbol and 0 on the other side. Ibig sabihin po, kailangan isang fraction lang yung makikita natin sa kabilang side ng inequality at sa kabilang side naman niya ay dapat 0. Okay po? Next is for us to determine the critical value. So yung critical values ay madidiscuss in detail as we go along with our examples. And then after determining our critical values and graphing it to our number line, is that we have to make our table of signs. So si table of sign yung pinaka-importanting bagay dito kay rational inequalities dahil ito yung nagbibigay sa atin ng sagot. Okay po? And we cannot proceed from one step to another unless na-complete na natin yung unang step. Okay po? And para mas maintindihan po nating mabuti, let us have an example. Number 1 is for us to solve the rational inequality. X plus 6 over x minus 4 is greater than 0. So, ang unang step down natin is for us to rewrite it as a single fraction on one side of the inequality symbol and 0 on the other side. So, kung mapapansin ninyo, we have here x plus 6 over x plus 4 is greater than 0. Isang fraction lang ba yung nakikita natin sa kabilang side ng equation? So, ito po yung gusto kong itanong. Isang fraction lang ba ito? Yes, isang fraction lang dahil isa lang naman ang fraction bar na nakikita natin. And the other conditions kay step number 1 ay dapat 0 yung nasa kabila. So, 0 na ba yung nasa kabila? Yes, very good. That is 0. So, ibig sabihin, wala na tayong gagawin dito sa ating given. So, nalagpasan niya na agad yung step number 1. And step number 2, so, eto, wala na tayong gagalawin kasi single fraction na naman siya. Okay? So, proceeding to our step number 2 is for us to get our critical values. So, yung critical values po, ito po yung magdi-determine kung ano ang magiging solusyon natin sa ating rational inequality. And in getting critical values, it would be a technique or a strategy kung ifa-factor out natin yung mga terms na nandun sa single fraction natin. So kung mapapansin niyo, we have here two critical values here. We have here the critical values for x plus 6 and the other one which is x plus 4. Hindi naman na siya factorable. So why bakit pa natin siya ipa-factor out? Hindi naman na natin siya pwedeng i-factor. So, ibig sabihin, ito na po yung kukunan natin ng critical values. And for us to get that is we just need to equate it to 0, which is x plus 6 equals 0. And then we have, the other one is x plus 4 equals 0. And then we have to solve for the value of x. And we get that by what? Itatranspose lang natin itong si positive 6 sa kabila and so si positive 4 sa kabila. So meaning, the value of x or the critical values that we are looking for is or are negative 6 and negative 4. So ito po yung ilolocate natin sa ating number line. Si negative 6 at si negative 4. So let us have our number line. To which, pag papunta dito, papunta po siya kay positive infinity. At kapag dito naman, papunta siya kay negative infinity. And this is our 0. Let's say for example. Okay? So, here locates our 0. So, yun po yung ating magiging focal point. So, saan natin matatagpuan si negative 6? So, we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, this is where negative 6 lies. And then, we have here negative 4. We have here negative 4. So, tatanungin natin yung sarili natin. Ano bang gagamitin natin? Is it a solid dot or a hollow dot, sorry? A hollow dot or a solid dot? So, si hollow dot po, ginagamit po natin kapag ang inequality symbol natin ay greater than or less than lang. Pero yung solid dot natin, ginagamit natin siya kapag ang inequality symbol natin ay less than or equal to and greater than or equal to. So, let us go back to our inequality. So, ano ba yung inequality symbol natin? That is greater than. So, ibig sabihin, we are to use what? We are to use hollow dot. Okay po? So, kapag greater than or less than lang, wala tayong problema kasi lahat ng critical values natin dyan, would have a solid dot or a hollow dot, would have a hollow dot kasi hindi siya included. Okay? Pero kapag less than or equal to at greater than or equal to, doon na magkakaroon ng mas matinding analyzation kung sino ang included at kung sino ang hindi. But for now, since greater than siya, so hollow dot po yung gagamitin natin. So, as you can see, nung pinilat natin yung critical values, na-divide sa tatlo yung ating number line. Itong part na ito, tama po? And then, this part, and then, this part. Okay? So, yan po yung gagawin natin. Yan po yung ating magiging way para makapag-proceed tayo kay step number 3. And that is for us to make a table of sign. So, yung table of sign natin, nakadepende po dun sa ating graph. Okay? So, since the number line is parted into 3 partitions, itong partition na to, ito, at saka ito, or tatlong hati, ibig sabihin, kay table of sign, dapat meron tayong tatlong column. So, we have here 1, 2, and then we have here, lakihan natin. We have 1, 2, and then we have here 3. Okay po? And then, what we're going to do is to have our first row. And that talks about our set notation. Okay? So, yung set notation natin ay manggagaling dun sa ating unang partition. So, itong partition po na ito. Okay po? So, paano po natin i-represent yung ating set notation dyan? So, ibig sabihin, from negative 6, hindi siya included. Hence, the value of x would be what? The value of x would be, so papunta po siya dito, papunta po siya dito. Papunta po siya doon. So, ibig sabihin, our value of x would be what? Would be, since papunta po siya dito kay negative infinity, from negative 6, so that is, x is less than negative 6. So, that is our first partition. And then, after that, let's proceed to our next partition. So, yung next partition natin ay ito po. So, yung in between negative 6 and negative 4. So, ibig sabihin, yung set notation natin, x yung nasa gitna. So, from negative 6. So, ibig sabihin, yung values ni x is what? From negative 6 to negative 4, it should be what? Greater than negative 6, and then, but less than negative 4. Okay po? So, ito po yung ating next partition. And then, lastly, we proceed with our last partition. So, from negative 4 down to positive infinity. So, ibig sabihin, yung value ni x natin would be what? Since papunta siya sa kanan, that is greater than negative 4. Okay? So, wala po dyang equal to kasi lahat po ng ginamit natin ay hollow dot. Okay po? And next, the next column or the next row would talks about our interval. Okay? That would be our interval. So, yung interval natin, i-represent lang natin itong ating set notation into interval just like what has been discussed on the module. So, ibig sabihin, kung itong x is less than negative 6, i-represent natin siya sa ating interval. Remember na ang hollow dot or kapag less than Pag less than, ang ginagamit lang natin ay parentheses or less than or greater than. Pero kapag may equal to na po siya, ang ginagamit na po natin ay bracket. Okay? But since greater than and less than lang yung nakikita natin, then ang gagamitin lang natin would be parentheses lahat. So we have here, so from negative infinity, lagi tayo nagsisimula sa maliit. So from negative infinity to negative 6. Okay? And next is, itong partition po na ito. So we have here, parenthesis, negative 6, comma, negative 4, and then we have parenthesis ulit. Kasi, hollow dot din po ito. And lastly, we have from negative 4 down to positive infinity. So parenthesis po yan. We have negative 4 to infinity. So ayun po yung ating magiging interval. Okay po? And lastly, we have here what we so-called test points. Okay? So, yung test points po na tinatawag is kukuha lang tayo ng point mula dito sa interval natin na meron tayo. Okay? So, ano ba yung posibleng value ni x na less than negative 6? So, let's say for example, yung pinakamalapit na lang, that would be negative 7. And next is, ano yung possible values na less than or greater than negative 6 but less than negative 4. So, yung pinakamalapit na lang, that would be negative 5. So, makikita nyo naman yan sa number line kung ano yung pwede nating kuning test points. So, any test point will do. And then, lastly is that we have a test point from greater than negative 4. Okay? So, ano ba yung malapit? So, that is negative 3. Or pwede namang 0 kung gusto niyo, or any number which is greater than negative 4. Okay? And then, after that is that we proceed with the computation on the table of sign. Okay? So, yung critical values natin, ilan nga ulit yung critical values? That is 2. We have here 1. We have here 1. And then we have 2. So, ilalagay po natin yan sa ating table of signs. So, we have here x plus 6, yung unang critical value. And then, followed by x plus 4. And the last one, and the last row would be allocated para dun sa buong single expression. That is x plus 6 over x plus 4. So, ito na po yung magiging result natin. Okay? So, what we're going to do is to substitute these test points to these critical values. So, what would be negative 7? So, isa-substitute natin si negative 7 sa mga x's dito. Okay po? And that would be negative 7 plus 6. That would be negative 1. At ano po yung sign ng negative 1? That is negative. So, yun lang po yung isusulat natin sa table of signs. And then we proceed with the next one. Negative 7 plus 4. Dito na po tayo. That's negative 7 plus 4. That's still negative 3. So, we have here, the sign would be negative. Okay po? And then, the last row would be obtained by multiplying the signs ng mga nasa taas. So, ito po yon, negative times negative. What is negative times negative? That would be positive. Okay po? So, that would be positive. Next, let's proceed with the next column. So, we have down here, negative 5. So, yun po yung isa-substitute natin sa ating mga values dito. We have here negative 5 plus 6, that would be positive 1, and the sign would be positive. Okay po? Next is negative 5. Next is negative 5. Then, isa-substitute natin dito kay x plus 4. That's negative 5 plus 4. That would be negative 1. So, ang value ng negative 1, or ang sign ng negative 1 is negative. And then, the last sign would be obtained by multiplying yung mga nasa taas. So, that is positive times negative, that is negative. And lastly, we have here negative 3. So, we have your negative 3. Isa-substitute natin kay x plus 6. That is negative 3 plus 6. That would be positive 3. So, ang kanyang sign would be positive. Next, negative 3. Isa-substitute naman natin kay x plus 4. So, negative 3 plus 4, that is positive 1. And the sign of positive 1 is positive. And lastly, we have here positive times positive. That would be positive. Okay po? And now, dito na po natatapos yung ating table of signs. But yet, we still not have our solution. So, ano po ba yung magiging solution natin? So, balik po tayo dito kay ating single fraction. Ano po yung ating inequality symbol? This is actually greater than. At kapag greater than, kanino tayo papunta? Papunta tayo sa mga positive values. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, ang i-consider po natin na sign dito sa ating table of sign are all the positive values. Hence, we are to consider this and we also have to consider this. So, ibig sabihin, yung solution po natin would be the interval na under nito. So, ito po at saka ito. Okay? So, kapag pinag-isa po natin yan, that would be what? Okay, paliitan lang natin. So, that would be the union of negative infinity to negative 6, parenthesis, union, kasi dalawa po siya, union, negative 4, parenthesis, negative 4, comma, positive infinity. Okay po? Hence, kung i-graph natin ulit siya dito, okay, burahin lang natin tong ating yan. Okay, so kung i-graph po natin siya dito, ibig sabihin, yung ating magiging solution would be, sabi natin dito, negative infinity to negative 6. So, ito po yun. Ito, yung ating magiging shaded part, at saka po yung negative 4, comma, positive infinity. So, ito po yung magiging shaded part. Hence, the solution for our, to our rational inequality would be this one. Okay po? So, this would be our solution for problem number 1. Okay? So, medyo madali pa po siya. Okay? So, let us proceed with our next example. Let us proceed with this one. The given is, or the given rational inequality is 4 over 2x minus 1 is less than 1 over x plus 1. So, rewrite lang natin. We have here 4. We have here 4 over 2x plus 1. Ay, 2x minus 1, sorry. That's 2x minus 1 is less than 1 over x plus 1. So, yung ating step number 1 is for us to rewrite it as a single fraction. Okay po? Single fraction on one side. So, ibig sabihin, ito po, ililipat po natin sa kabila para maging 0 po yung nasa kabilang side. So, we have here 4 over 2x minus 1 minus. So, nilipat po natin siya sa kabila kaya naging minus. 1 over x plus 1 is less than 0. So, nasatisfy na po natin yung unang condition na 0 dapat yung nasa kabila. Okay? But, we still have another condition na kailangan single fraction. Single fraction po ba ito? No, kasi dalawa yung fraction na nakikita natin. So, para makuha natin yon, para magawa nating single fraction yan, kukunin natin yung LCD. Yung LCD natin would be what? It would be just 2x minus 1 at saka x plus 1. So, yun po yung nasa baba natin. So, we have here 2x minus 1 and then we have here x plus 1. And then, what we're going to do is, etong si 2x minus 1 times x plus 1, i-divide natin dito kay 2x minus 1. So, pag di-divide natin siya, makakancel lang to. So, ang matitira is si x plus 1. At yun po yung i-multiply natin sa numerator. So, we have here x plus 1 multiplied by the numerator, which is 4. Okay? And then, minus. So, same process yung ginawa natin kanina. Ito, i-divide natin kay x plus 1. So, makakancel lang si x plus 1. Matitira lang si 2x minus 1. So, yun po yung i-multiply natin. So, we have here 2x minus 1 multiplied by the numerator, which is 1, is less than 0. And then, after this, we have to simplify. So, to simplify this, we multiply 4 to x. That would be 4x. And then, we multiply 4 to positive 1. That would be positive 4. And then minus. Do not forget to put parentheses, ha? So we have here 1 times 2x, that's just 2x, and then 1 times negative 1, that's just negative 1. So we have here minus 2x minus 1 over 2x minus 1 and x plus 1 is greater than 0. So meron pa po tayo nakikitang pwedeng i-simplify, so isi-simplify pa po natin. So para maging ganon, kailangan tanggalin natin tong parenthesis na ito. So to do that, that would become 4x plus 4 minus, so ito positive, naging negative, kaya naging minus 2x. And then ito, negative 1, pero ito is may minus, so kaya po siya magiging positive 1 over 2x minus 1 times x plus 1 is less than 0. And then after that, simplify pa po natin. We still have 4x minus 2x plus 4 plus 1 over 2x minus 1 times x plus 1 is less than 0. And then after that, simplify natin. Ito, we'll be having 4x minus 2x, that is 2x. And then we have positive 5 over, so we have here over 2x minus 1 times x plus 1 is greater or is less than 0. So, single fraction na po ba siya? Wala na po bang siya pwedeng i-simplify? Yes, single fraction na po siya. So, ito po yung ating magiging single fraction. So, how many critical values yung pwede nating makita dito? We actually have here 1, 2, and then we have here 3. Okay? So, yun po yung gagawa natin ng critical values. Okay? So, yung maging critical values natin would be, okay, sulat ko lang, critical values. The critical values would be 2x plus 5, and then we have here 2x plus 1, if I'm not mistaken, and then we have x minus 1. Okay, so tingnan nga ulit natin. Ay, 2x minus 1 and x plus 1, sorry. So we have here 2x minus 1, 2x minus 1, and x plus 1. And all of this would be equated to 0 para makuha natin yung pinakang critical value. So this will lead to 2x minus 5, or sorry, 2x equals negative 5. And then ito, kapag sinimplify natin to, we divide both sides by 2 para makuha yung x. Then that would be what? That would be, the first critical value would be negative 5 over 2. So this is our first critical value. Next is that we have 2x. So itatranspose natin ito sa kabilang side ng equation, making that 2x equals 1. And dividing both sides by 2 para makuha natin yung x. So that would become, our second critical value would be x equals 1/2. Okay, so ito po yung susunod nating critical value. And then after that, we have the last critical value. We transpose positive 1 to the other side of the equation, making this x equals negative 1. So this would be our third critical value, at yun po yung ating ilalagay sa ating number line. Okay? So let us draw our number line. So this is to positive infinity, and this would be to negative infinity. And if this is our 0, then our first critical value is negative 5 over 2. Or this can actually be simplified to negative 2.5 or negative 2.5. Okay, so we have here negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. So if this is negative 2 and this is negative 3, then negative 2.5 would be somewhere here. Okay, so nandito po yung ating negative 2.5. And then we have here 1/2. So check na po yung ating first critical value. Next would be our so gamitin na natin or i-plot na natin kung anong klaseng dot yung ating gagawin, if it's hollow dot or solid dot. Since sa ating single fraction ang ating inequality symbol is less than lang, ibig sabihin, lahat po ng critical values ay hollow dot. So, hollow dot po yung ating ilalagay kay negative 5 over 2. Okay? So, this is a hollow dot. Okay? Perahin ko lang. So, this is our first critical value. This is negative 5 over 2. So, that would be our first critical value. And then after that is that we have the second critical value. That's 1/2. So, if this is 0 and this is 1, so where is 1/2? 1/2 is in between. And since less than lang naman yung ating inequality symbol, so hollow dot lang po. So, ito po si 1/2. And then, we have negative 1. So, if this is 0, then negative 1 would be here. And then, it will also be a hollow dot. Okay po? So, ito po yung ating critical value. So, lagyan lang natin ng numbers ha. This is 1, this is negative 2, negative 1, negative 3. Okay. So, now, how many partitions do we have on our partition, number line? So, kung mapapansin ninyo, if this is our point, we have 1, 2, then 3. We actually have how many partitions? We have 1. That's one partition. 2. This is 2. Second partition. Then we have 3. We have third partition. And then we have 4. So, we have 4 partitions. So, ibig sabihin, in making our table of signs, we have to put 4 columns. Alright? So, we have here 4 columns. Lagyan natin 1, 2, 3, and then we have here 4. Okay? And for our first row would be our set notation. Alright? Our set notation for our first partition would be what? Sabi dyan, it's from negative 5 over 2 to negative infinity. So, that would be x is what? X is less than negative 5 over 2. And then, our second partition would be this one. Ito pong gitna ng negative 5 over 2 at negative 1. So, ibig sabihin, x is in between. So, that is x is what? X is greater than negative 5 over 2, but less than negative 1. Okay, so that would be our second partition. Third partition, we are talking about this partition. So, from negative 1 to 1/2. Tama po ba? From negative 1 to 1/2. Okay, so our second partition or our third set notation would be from x is what? X is greater than negative 1, but less than 1/2. Okay? And for our third partition, we are actually talking about, our fourth partition, we are actually talking about this part. Okay? And that is from 1/2, to positive infinity. Hence, x would be greater than 1/2. Okay? So, ayan po yung ating magiging set notations. And then, next row would be all about our interval. Okay? So, the interval would be, since this is x is less than negative 5 over 2, then that would be what? That would be from negative infinity to negative 5 over 2 parenthesis kasi less than lang naman. Okay? Next is that we have x is greater than negative 5 over 2. So, mula kay negative 5 over 2 parenthesis, papunta kay negative 1 parenthesis din. Okay? Next is x is greater than negative 1. So, mula kay negative 1 parenthesis, then papunta kay x is less than 1/2. So, papunta kay 1/2. And that would be this one. From parenthesis negative 1 to 1/2 parenthesis. And lastly, we have x is greater than 1/2. That would be what? That would be from 1/2, that's parenthesis, to positive infinity. Okay po? And our next column, or next row, our next row would be all about our test points. Okay? Our test point. So, ano bang value yung pwede natin gamitin na less than kay negative 5? Alright, so punta tayo dito kay graph. So, less than kay negative 5, yun nandito. Yung nandito po, so that would be negative 3, yung pinaka malapit. Next is that a point in between negative 5 over 2 at saka negative 1. O makita naman natin, that would be negative 2. So, yun na po yung gagamitin natin. Negative 2. And then we have at a point from negative 1 to 1 half. So, dito po, ano, in between dito, ano ba yung value na pwede natin gamitin? So, madali lang. So, yung 0 na lang yung gamitin natin. And lastly, we have a point from 1 half, more than 1 half. That would be what? That would be yung pinakamalapit na lang. So, that would be positive 1. Okay? So, that would be positive 1. Yun yung gagamitin nating test point. And then, after getting the test points, we now list down our critical values. Okay? So, our first critical value is, that's 2x plus 5. Okay? Next is what? Next is 2x minus 1. And then, we have x plus 1. Okay? So, that's x plus 1. And then, yung pangkalahatan. Okay? So, we'll be having this one. We'll be having, so, kopyahin lang natin yung ating single dito. So, that is 2x plus 5 over 2x minus 1 times x plus 1. So, ayun po yung ating last part. Okay? So, we are now ready to test. Okay? So, we'll be having, if we are to substitute negative 3 to 2x plus 5, that's 2 times negative 3, negative 6 plus 5, that's negative 1. So, meaning, our sign for the first box would be negative. Next is that we have negative 3, isa-substitute natin kay 2x minus 1. So, that would be what? 2 times negative 3, that's negative 6 minus 1, that's negative 7. Hence, it's negative. Lastly, we have negative 3, isa-substitute natin kay x plus 1. So, that would become negative 3 plus 1, that's negative 2, and it's still negative. And then, the last sign would be obtained by multiplying all these 3. So, we have negative times negative, that's positive. Then positive times negative, that's still negative. Okay po? Next, we proceed with negative 2. Okay? So, sa substitute tayo sa negative 2 kay 2x plus 5. That's 2 times negative 2, that's negative 4 plus 5. That would be positive 1. Hence, that would be positive. Sorry. That would be positive. Next, we have negative 2 times negative 2 minus 1. That's negative 4 minus 1 is negative 5. Hence, that's negative. And lastly, we have, substitute natin si negative 2 kay x plus 1. So, negative 2 plus 1, that would be negative 1. So, we have negative. Okay? And then, positive times negative, that's negative. And then, negative times negative, that's positive. Hence, our last sign would be positive. And next is that we substitute 0 to all our critical values. So, we have 2 times 0, that's 0 plus 5, that's 7. So, hence, it's positive. Next, we have 2 times 0, that's 0 minus 1, that's negative 1, that's negative. And then we have 0 plus 1. So, 0 plus 1 is 1, and that is positive. And then we have positive times negative, that's negative. Then negative times positive, that's negative. Hence, our last sign would be negative. And lastly, we have here 1. So, substitute natin si 1 dito. So, we have here 2 times 1 plus 5, that's positive 8. Hence, it's positive. Next is that we have 1 times 2 minus 1. So, that would be, that's 2 times 1, that's 3 minus 1, that's 2. So, that is positive. And last, we have 1. So, substitute kay x plus 1. So, we have 1 plus 1, that's positive 2. Hence, it's still positive. And then, the last sign would be obtained by multiplying all these 3. So, we have positive times positive, positive, and then positive times positive, positive. Hence, the last sign would be positive. Okay po? And then, we now go back to our single inequality. So, ano po ulit yung ginamit natin na inequality symbol? That is less than. Alright? So, kung less than yan, okay? So, kung less than yan, kung less than, we are actually towards the negative values or the negative signs. So, ang atin pong i-consider na signs sa ating table of sign would be all the negative values. So, eto po. And yung ating magiging solution would be the interval na katapat niya. Hence, our solution for our inequality would be the union of negative infinity to negative 5 over 2 union, that's negative 1, 1 half. Okay? At kung ilolocate natin siya sa graph, ito po siya. So, ito, yung unang partition, ito po yung solution natin, and then we have the next one, this one. Alright? So, ayan po yung magiging solution ng ating inequality. Okay po?